getting ready to make some little white pulled flowers to use as filler flowers for a cake that's coming up, and I thought I'd show you how to do it. The tools that you're going to need to make these simple little sugar flowers are a cone tool, the ones with the ridges at the end. They do come in all different shapes and sizes from different manufacturers, but these ones are from Ateco, and as you can see, they come with different numbers of grooves. This one is a 6-groove cone tool, and this one has 8 grooves, so you'll see later what difference that'll make in your flowers. This one has 5, it's kind of a star, and then this one is just a smooth cone. And these are modeling tools. They come in a kit, or you can also find them individually. Floral tape, floral wire that's been wrapped, and just cut them into 2 to 3 to 4 inch lengths. Some little sewing scissors, some needle nose pliers. I use a small set. Some sugar glue or gum glue, a cornstarch pouch for dusting, and some shortening. The little flowers that we're going to make are going to end up looking like this. I think they're a really good flower for beginners to start with because they're very simple to do. They use some of the most basic flower making techniques, and you end up with something so pretty you can be proud of right from the very beginning. Also, they're very usable. You see them on some of the highest end sugar flower cakes out there because they're so pretty, they're simple to make, and they fill up the spaces between larger flowers like sugar roses or anemones or peonies so beautifully when they are gathered into bunches of 5 or 7 or 9 and wrapped with floral tape into little bunches. One thing that is very interesting about these is that you can make different numbers of petals on your flowers depending on which cone tool you use. So let me just set these down, and I'll show you the cone tools. These ones happen to be from Ateco, which is a well-known bakery and sugar flower brand. You will find them made by many different companies. I know Wilton has a set for a cost-effective way to find them, and you will also find them through PME, which is a wonderful company who makes very high-quality sugar tools. These ones happen to be Ateco. They're brand new, and I wanted to try them out, so that's what I'm going to show you today. And I do like that this set has all these different sizes. This end has 8 ridges on it, and 8 spaces in between. This flower has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 petals, so that was made using the 6 ridged cone tool. This one has 5 petals, and so I would have used the 5 ridges, so you get the point. Now before we get started, I wanted to show you what this fondant looks like before it is kneaded and reconditioned before we make flowers out of it. I usually store it kneaded up and in a nice smooth ball, but this I just smushed out so that you could see the rough edges along the edges of this little ball of sugar dough. And that's what we want to get rid of before we try to make flowers out of this. So basically what you're going to want to do is to take just a little bit of Crisco or shortening, and some people like to rub it into their hands. It depends on the project. For me, for this type of project, I like to just apply it to the surface of the sugar paste, and then I'm just going to move this all out of the way here and knead that shortening into your sugar paste. My preferred method for kneading pieces of sugar paste is to use this part of my hand and the pinky, and let the rest sort of try and stay relaxed. You don't want to overwork your hand, especially when you start getting into larger pieces of fondant. But even small pieces can be even more difficult in a way because you're trying to focus on a small little area like this. So I try to keep the rest of my hand relaxed and then just use this sort of pad below the pinky and this area right here to work the sugar paste back into a nice conditioned state. So I'm basically pulling it back and pushing it forward, pulling it back and pushing it forward. And then you're just giving it a little turn each time so that you can see it's starting to get conditioned and there are no rough edges around the sides anymore. And you just want to do that until it feels pliable and is smooth and you don't have any cracking, and it's just a nice smooth piece of. Certainly don't want to be worrying as you're trying to work on one flower if your sugar paste over here that's waiting is drying out. That just distracts you from your work. So cellophane or plastic wrap or a sandwich bag nearby so that you can just store away what you're not using and protect it from the air while you're working, and then you don't have to worry about it. Alright, now there are, if you really want to be precise about the size of flowers that you're making, there are size guides like this that allow you to sort of estimate a piece and then stick it through a particular size hole, like say this number 6, and if it goes halfway through, then you can say that that's about the same size every single time. This one is from Nicholas Lodge and Margaret Ford, Cell Cakes 1994, if you're looking for that online. But you don't have to use this one. There are different brands online. That being said, if you're not really particular about the exact sizes of the flowers, nature, and every flower is not the same size in nature, so I just sort of estimate a similar size little ball of sugar paste every time I get ready to make a new flower. So some of them might come out smaller and some of them might come out larger, but then when you make an arrangement of them, I feel that they look much more natural and pretty that way. So we just need this back up a little bit since I've been talking. And I'm just going to pull off a little piece like that. Cover this piece up while I work. Okay, so we're going to just roll this into a nice smooth ball between your palms. And if you've conditioned the sugar dough, it shouldn't take very long. And once you've got it nice and round, then just lay your index finger on one half of the ball of sugar paste and just sort of rock it back and forth to create a cone shape, which is couldn't be simpler, right? Looks like a little teardrop. Next, you're going to grab one of your cone tools. I'd like the flower that I make to have 5 petals, so I'm going to choose the tool that has 5 grooves on it and 5 spaces, so that when I do my next step, I'll end up with 5 petals. So that brings us to the next step. Take your cone tool and insert it right into the center of the cone, the fat part of the cone, and just press it in and pull it back out. Now you've created a little indentation in there that looks like a star in this case. Next, you're going to take your little sewing scissors and cut along the grooves that you've created with your cone tool. That's what it looks like at this point. Let me bring it up a little closer for you. Okay, so you can see the beginnings of 5 petals. The next step is to take your thumb and middle finger and just flatten a petal against the pad of your middle finger using your thumb. Turn it and do the next one. Now you don't want to squeeze it all at once, you want to do it gradually and gently. Just kind of shape them and give them some natural motion. Go all the way around. Just like that. Now I do want to make the point right now that if you wanted to be fussier with these, you could definitely take a little ball tool and lay the flowers down and try to flatten out your edges, but I feel like part of the beauty of these is that they're just so simple and natural looking. Also, that once you get going with these, you can actually put out a lot of these flowers in a very short period of time. Kind of get in an assembly mode and knock out a whole bunch of them. Now all we've done to these little pieces of wire is we've taken our needle nose pliers, and here I'll just demonstrate one for you. And you've probably seen this before, but you just bend the very end of the wire over and make just a tiny little hook on the end. They call it a shepherd's hook or shepherd's crook. And this is going to help the wire to stay inside the flower. Once it's inserted, it'll kind of hook into the sugar paste and stay a lot better. So what we're going to do next is take our sugar glue, dip the hook end into the sugar glue, and just wipe off the excess. If you don't like wiping it on your hand, you can definitely keep a damp cloth nearby and wipe off there instead. So we just take our wire and stick it through the center of the flower that we just made. Right through, and you want to kind of feel along the back side of your flower. Make sure you don't come out at an odd angle. So just put it through and pull the hook in. You can kind of feel it catching, and then just twist to adhere the throat of the flower onto the wire, and then you have a pretty little filler flower. Now some things you can do with these are to put a sugar pearl in the center, a pearl or a colored pearl. Some people put the little diamondique centers to make them sparkle, and you can definitely also dust with petal dust. A little green or yellow in the center could be really pretty. Also, airbrushing lightly along the edges can be pretty. But a bunch of these all together, put in amongst roses and tulips, can look really pretty as a filler with no color at all. See? They're so pretty. Now this one is wet, and I'm going to lay mine to dry on just this little piece of foam that I have some other flowers drying on, so that it can have a chance to dry. If you don't have foam like that, you could just take a piece of foil and crumple it up, make some little hills and valleys, and you can lay your flowers on that. You don't need any special equipment for laying your flowers out. Not this type of flower anyway. More quickly in the method that we would use from start to finish without talking as much, so you can see how quickly you can really pull a flower. And I hope that if you have any questions, you can post them down below and I'll answer them. But here we go. between steps. These, by the time you're done making, say 12 of them, the first few are starting to be at least dry enough to work with again. This is one that you saw me make, and this one. And I'm going to show you how to bunch them together and wrap them. Now these three that I've been showing you, I made earlier out of a different batch of sugar dough. So it's slightly tinted from a project I was working on, but they'll look fine together, just for demonstration purposes. So we'll just bunch them together into a sweet little arrangement, and sometimes the bigger ones look prettier in the center. All you're going to do now is to take a little bit of floral tape, and if you've worked with this at all before, you know that you just stretch it a little bit, and that activates the sticky property of this tape. And what I like to do is to start a little way, maybe an inch down from the flowers. I'm going to go ahead and take this one out because I started to work with him a little too soon. He wasn't quite ready to be wrapped, but this is one that we made today. Now back to the tape. Start about halfway down your length of wire. This one's a little longer than the rest, just for no apparent reason, but what I like to do is to gather the free end and stick it to itself, and then just start twisting. And you twist up towards the flowers. The way to do that is to just kind of hold the tape at an angle up towards the flower, so that as you twist, it works its way up. And you're squeezing with your fingers to attach the tape to the wire. When you get to the top, when you get up to the base of the flowers, you can just start to hold it straight out, kind of 90-degree angle instead of at an angle, instead of, like, I guess that's 45. Pull it out to about a 90-degree angle from the wire, and that'll allow you to start turning it back down the other length of the wire. Okay, so we're going to need a little more stretch. And I've wrapped all the way around the base of the flowers, and so I want to start working it back down the length of the wire, so I'll angle it 45-degree angle from the wire back towards myself. Now probably, if you're a visual person like me, it makes more sense to just watch rather than listen to my gibberish. But we're pulling relatively tight and squeezing tightly with these fingers. Alright, all the way down to the bottom, and then you just pull it, it snaps off, and then just wrap it around. Again, there are finer techniques for wrapping your wire. For instance, there's a very cool tool that allows you to cut this floral tape into smaller widths so that you get a finer wrap around your flowers. And as you grow in your skills with flower making, you can definitely invest in that. But that tool is very expensive, and you need to make sure that this is something you want to do a lot of before you invest in that. I do a lot of these, but not so much that it would make a huge difference for me to do that. However, if you are someone who's going to want to enter high-end competition, that is something you might want to invest in sometime. But for our purposes, this is a little piece that's going to be added to an arrangement of other sugar flowers and inserted into holders in the cake. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the wrap that we got with our full width of floral tape. And that's really kind of pretty. See, now since they're wired, you can arrange them, you can move them. You were tucking other flowers next to them, you could move them to where they look the prettiest. And really just working on these, if you're a beginner with sugar flowers, working on these is going to help you gain a lot of confidence and just feel a lot better about yourself, because they're very simple, they come out very pretty, they're very impressive, and you could do just a whole cake based on these flowers in different colors and make someone very, very happy. stir it up, smush it down until it all dissolves.